It's another beautiful night in the Metro Atlanta area, and we want to welcome everyone to the Bare Truth Love, Life, Sex, and Flowers. Tonight's show is being fed via internet, blogtalkradio.com/loudmouthradio. We're live in the beautiful Renaissance in the Cobb County area of Metro Atlanta. It's a beautiful evening, a very, very, very high energy night, and we should have a great show tonight. We want to make sure that all of our listeners know how to call in and interact with us tonight. So if you are listening via internet and would like to dial in and speak to the host or any of our guests on tonight's show, please do so at 347-826-7520. Now, mind you, we are in the Renaissance, so there's a little bit of activity coming in, but we just felt like being executive tonight. So we made a great, grand decision to come on to the Cobb County area and do our show tonight. So if you have a business in the Metro Atlanta area and you would love for us to actually do a live remote at your location, make sure you contact us today at 706-363-3895. Our hours, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Fridays, and we'll be able to answer any of your media questions. If you're online and you'd like to tweet or Facebook message us. We're on Facebook at Loudmouth Online. You can tweet us at Loudmouth, LOUDDMOUTH. And in your tweets, please use the hashtag #TheBareTruth. Tonight's show will be available for download and on demand 24/7 after 10 p.m. Tonight's show, I'm sure, will be a dynamic one. So I'm sure you'll be in for a treat as usual, as Miss Jazzie always brings some type of nice, interesting, heated discussion. And as we're doing our broadcast, we want to let you know that our chat lines are open. So if you want to chat with us online, you have the capabilities of doing so. We're live at loudmouthradio.com to be able to see and talk to you live right online. As far as our media partners, we want to recognize them tonight for being a major part of our network as we're growing in leaps and bounds. Fletcher & Sons 2 Auto Repair, located in the heart of Jonesboro, Georgia, is offering our listeners the opportunity to get their cars prepared for the summer heat, because you know it's going to come. So my advice to you is to take time to go in and have them take a look at your car. Have it actually serviced for your air conditioning, which includes a leak diagnostic check. Your actual Freon will be charged in your system to make sure that it's nice and blowing cold, and that's only for $75. So you might want to take clear advantage of that while the opportunity does last. You want to reach them at 770-471-0116, as well as you can actually view their actual interactive video online with us at loudmouthtv.com and see Fletcher & Sons video there and find out more about what they do as they're ANSI certified on foreign and domestic vehicles. We also like to recognize another one of our media partners, Digimo Printing, who's done a spectacular job on our show's flyers. They've made sure that each show has had its proper theme and image, and they can do that for you as well. So if you contact them today at 770-506-2996, you have a wonderful opportunity of having some very nice, professional, digitally designed media for your business, and they're offering our listeners 1,000 flyers and 10 11 by 17 posters free with that purchase of $80. The design actual fee would be extra, but it's worth it. If you also need business cards, 250 business cards for $25, you can't beat that. So all those who are still using Vista Printing, you've been in business longer than 3 months, shameful. Get something that's going to be adequate to represent your business. Contact Digimo Printing and let them put the work in it for you. 770-506-2996. As well as AtlantaCarFinders.com, specializing as the #1 referral source to help you connect with your new vehicle in the Metro Atlanta area. And you can find them right online at AtlantaCarFinders.com. And now I think it's just perfect timing to go ahead and bring your host in for the evening, Miss Jazzie Jones.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to come to you on another Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. As usual, I am excited about being with you and you being with me, because I know it is so much to do on a Tuesday. Most people think it's not, but it really is. I can pick several things, like this wonderful hotel that we're in. It is so many things happening, conferences and meet and greets and preparing for the game tonight. I'm not going to say Birdman because I know my son Jermaine is really listening and he's shooting for the Spurs, but that's neither here nor there. Go ahead and grab your coffee, your tea, your water, or your drink of choice. Kick your legs up, your feet up. Sit back and relax in your comfy chair, and let's learn about some other things. As you know, this is a two-part series on our Let's Talk About Sex. And last week we covered, the intimacies, the fantasies, the lack of communication a lot of times, the enjoyment of just the sexual pleasures. And we had a guest that wasn't able to make it to go a little bit deeper, but we did talk with Ariel Loren from Corset Magazine and shared some insights, and it was a good show. This week as well, I'm always hoping to bring you information that's going to be beneficial and that's going to give you informative information and helpful information, because that's what this show is about. The Bare Truth always tries to bring you the truth, at least from our perspective and those that we bring on the show. Of course, they're all our opinions. Some of them are facts, and some of them are facts as we know them to be. But I always try to bring you the bare truth, covering love, life, sex, and flowers. So tonight we're going to continue the conversation. However, we're going to go on the flip side of the sex industry and sexual pleasures and go into a little bit more serious conversation as well as a healing conversation. So we entitled Part 2 as Sexual Healing. Tonight we're going to talk about the healing processes of sex and the sex industry. Many of us have friends, family members, or we've heard stories, some very horrific stories and some stories of choice. It didn't always go the way that they wanted them to go, but nevertheless, we want to be able to offer to our listeners those stories again, and we also want to be able to offer our guests and those that may call in them some opportunities that will give you healing and recovering from being the victim. I know you hear a lot of stuff in the background. We're making sure our mics are together because I think I wasn't being heard very clearly. I know that I don't always speak as loud as some of my other co-hosts, so I'm going to do my best. Nevertheless, we're going to have Imani Evans on tonight. She's been on our show before, and it is always a pleasure to have her to come on, and she'll be on in just a little while. But I wanted to start the show off, as I do each week, going into my little bits of researches here and there. I found a story, a documentary that I thought was just incredible. And tonight we're not in a judgmental state, even though we're going to talk about several of the industries, sexual industries and circumstances. We're not here to judge anybody. We're not here to put anybody down or make anybody feel less about themselves or their choices. We're here to talk about the choices and or the forced situations that brought people into a need for sexual healing. But we are here to discuss things that do take place. And so in studying and preparing for this show, I found an article and I found a documentary that I watched. And actually the documentary is in Amsterdam, and it's about two twins. Well, the two twins mean two. Okay, it's about twins. And their names are Louise and Merton Falkens. Fokkens, and it's entitled Meet the Falkens. Isn't that hilarious? But nevertheless, it's not the Falkers, it's the Falkens, and they're from Amsterdam. So I had to watch this and read all of the subtitles. Well, I like foreign films, so, no big deal. But the story is about the twins that have been in the prostitution industry for over 50 years. And they've just retired in the last few years at 70 years old. That's right. I'm going to let you take a little bit of time to think about what I just said. These sisters, ironically enough, twins, went into this industry very, very young, and stayed in the industry, and I will say somewhat got trapped into feeling that they had to stay in the industry for over 50 years. Now, they are two of the most bubbliest, cheery, happy-go-lucky sisters that you ever want to meet. Matter of fact, if you watch the video, which we'll post all of that information, it's on Netflix, so you'll be able to pull it up. But we'll post that, have the producer post that for us. But if you watch it or read their information, it will look like they're talking about gardening and just, everyday run-of-the-mill type of industry or job or career. And in Amsterdam, although it is legal, it is still a taboo industry. And what we wanted to talk about with these particular two, I wish I had, opportunity to have had this translated into English, but I'm not that good nor that fast on downloading and flipping a language. But nevertheless, what they share is how they started in the industry, how during that time, now you're talking about 50 years ago, and these sisters are in their 70s. And you're talking about another country that does not always protect their women, as most countries didn't 50 years ago. We've just gained some rights here in America to vote. We're just coming into positions of leadership, and we're just being acknowledged as an equal part to men. But even here in America, we did a show on another one of our co-hosts' show very early on in Loudmouth's launching of sex trafficking. And even here in Georgia was one of the states that really just kind of spearheaded this whole promotion of, listen, it's here, it's real, it's happening. But in other countries, it's still very prominent how you can be taken from what seems to be a loving relationship and finding out that this man is really a pimp and really wanting to put you in prostitution or really wanting to put you in pornography or, causing you to be in a position where you have to depend on him or her, because it's both sides, and putting you in positions where you feel like at first it's very glamorous, and then you find out, whoa, this is not the glam or the fame that I was expecting, nor is it the glam or the fame that I want to stay in, but you feel like I have no way to get out of it. I have no way to provide for myself because, one, this person is taking care of you. They're providing your food. They're providing your clothing, your home. Every single thing that you do or you don't do is now provided by this person. And so in those moments, you're either really very much controlled and abused to the point that you can't get away, or if you do get away, you're found, you're brought back, and you're treated in most horrific situations, which all of us have probably heard stories like this. But these two sisters are talking about it as if, it was no big deal. Now, when they begin to share their stories of husband abusing and leaving them and getting pregnant, and in a society at that time, you just did not get pregnant without being married or being in a stable position. And it's just, I don't want to give it all away because I would love for you to follow the documentaries that I talk about. I really want you to kind of support the people who have taken so much time to put them together. And it's really, really a great documentary. But even there was New York Times review of this film stated that beneath the Falcon's cheery facade lies a familiar story of poverty, male violence, lost children, and a fight for independence. So you see, even when you're looking at it, you see all of the good, and they're great artists. I don't know when that skill was honed in, but they're really talented artists. So I'm hoping that, later on in life that's going to sustain them. But you'll see that all of that glitter of gold, of money making, and they made money. They made great money. But you think about being 70, and in Amsterdam you just kind of go up to the window and you choose the person that you want to be with. These are 70-year-old women in windows, and it's
right across from them is an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old girl or a 30-year-old woman, and these are the women who they're going up against, and these are women who are treating them. Now, they're in the same industry, but these are women who are now treating these older women like trash. Or you have men or women coming by snickering and laughing at these older women who could be your grandmother that are in this industry, stayed in it because they didn't know what else to do, or they didn't choose what else to do. Like in the documentary, one of the moms will say, I should have done something different. I should have made a better choice. I should have. And you will hear that story throughout when you're hearing about many of the women, primarily women, because men do this as well, guys. So let's not get it twisted that only women are in the sex industry or get caught up in any type of stripping or pornography or primarily prostitution. But at least 70% of the people who are in prostitution and or porn or stripping are women. 70%. That's a huge percentage when you think about across the globe who's involved in these type of things. So once again, we're not here to judge, but we do want to bring awareness. One of the sisters doing this documentary, you have a group of Christians who come to her and have come to her for years to talk to her about getting out of the business. And every time they come, she's very respectful. They come in, they sit with her, they talk to her. And they really began to talk to her the latter part right before she got ready to retire. And they were saying, don't you want to stop? Aren't you tired of doing this? And she was like, yeah, who wouldn't want to do this? But who's going to pay my bills? How am I going to survive? You see, this is the same thing I was saying. How do you survive when somebody has been taking care of you, or an industry, a job, as you will, has been taking care of you and providing for you for over 50 years? That fear grips you because you're thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to eat? How do I take care of they have the cutest little dog. How am I going to take care of my dog? And so one of the Christian women said, well, no, I think it's the leader, I want to say he's the priest or the pastor, says, well, what if we take your card, like a debit card, and we will pay all of your bills? If you stop right now, we'll pay everything for you because we want you out of this industry just that bad. And, when somebody comes up to you and says, let me give you thousands of dollars, or let me give you an opportunity to have all of your bills paid, who really believes that? So when she sits with her twin sister, her sister's like, yeah, right, what's the catch? What do you have to do? That's an unbelievable thing. Most of us will not have that experience in our lifetime happen easily, or where we would just readily believe it. Now, I would believe it because I'm a believer in all those good things, but you understand what I'm saying. She sat down, and the sister says to her, well, that's a great idea, but what are you going to do in a few months when the money runs out? Because they're only going to pay for your living up to a certain time. So it's things like that we have to think about when we're asking women and or men to come out of an industry. We want to be able to have skills and opportunities for them to be able to come out and to be successful. So those are the things we want to talk about. As soon as we come back from a commercial break, we're going to bring our guest on, and we're going to continue this conversation as I'm going to post some of these things for you to see exactly what we were sharing with you with the sisters. So hang on. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Loudmouth Radio Network, The Bare Truth, Love, Life, Sex, and Flowers with Miss Jazzie Jones. We'd like to thank all our listeners for tuning in. If you'd like to call in on the studio line, this is a hot topic. I'm sure you'll have some questions or comments. Feel free to call in at 347-826-7520. We're on the air live. You have opportunity to speak on some of the things that's being said. If you have questions, comments, if you've seen some of the information that's being shared, we'd love to hear your viewpoint, as well as if you'd like to talk to our guest and her featured host for the evening, Ms. Imani Evans. You'll have the opportunity to do so while we're on air. For all our people that are online, we have an open chat, so you can definitely post your questions, comments, and things that you may want to address for everyone to see, and we'll speak on that and address those as well. We also want to thank our sponsors, Fletcher & Sons Auto 2 Repair, Digimo Printing, as well as AtlantaCarFinders.com for supporting and featuring this broadcast this evening. We actually want to make sure that if you're online and you want to tweet, that you tweet at Loudmouth, LOUDDMOUTH, and use the hashtag #TheBareTruth. We also like to make mention that we are able to interact with you by mobile messaging, get specific promotions and offers from our Loudmouth members that are listening. We want to make sure you're able to take advantage of some great things, find out some special news before it's broadcasted. We want you to text Loudmouth, LOUDDMOUTH, to 77948. So you whip up your cell phone and just make sure you do a text of LOUDDMOUTH. Things may apply. Just make sure you check your local cell phone plan. So pretty much everyone has the ability to have unlimited text messaging now, so we should be okay. And we want to make sure that you're aware that we are available for download 24/7. Available also now on Stitcher Radio. So we're reaching 4 million in their car dashboards now. We're available for this app on your iPhone and Android. So download Stitcher today, STITCHER, and make Loudmouth Radio Network one of your favorite shows. Now it's time for you to get back with your host.
Thank you so much. I so love the fact that we have the greatest support system. We are growing in leaps and bounds. So, guys, please, please, please call in, find out about advertising with us. We are growing so grand, and I'm excited. I don't want to hesitate because I do want to have our guests come on. And we have a couple of people that have called in. If you want to be a part of the show, you have a question or comment, please remember to press 1 so that we can add you to the show. Right now I want to go ahead and welcome my guests to the show. How are you, my love? Are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi.
Oh, fantastic. Greetings. Thank you for having me.
I'm always excited when you come on the show because you are such a joy. I've known you forever.
Yes, it's always a pleasure.
Well, I don't know, were you able to join us because I know you're always busy. Did you get an opportunity to hear about our sisters in the industry for 50 years plus?
I did. I actually listened. I've been listening since you came on and listening to that story. I definitely want to see the documentary because I think it's a fascinating story.
Yeah, it is. When I sat back and last week when we had the show, we had another guest, Madika, wasn't able to make it, and she is such a healer within her own self, so I really wanted her to be on that part of the show. But, I love the fact that it's my show. I can bring it on, bring it back, and talk about it for a long time because we want to have healthy sexual relationships. Everybody wants to make sex dirty or make it nasty, and it's nothing of the sort. It's just how and what we want to do and how we can come out of some things if that's our choice. And which most of the time, in a case like this with these sisters, they didn't want to go into it. Most people don't, as I'm sure you would agree, wake up one day at 6 years old and go, going to be a stripper, going to be a prostitute. I am going to be in the sex industry. It's just not that. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. Agree.
So in watching this, and I'm reading the subtitles, and I'm listening to the stories, and I'm watching these women, and they were beautiful young, and they're beautiful now, but watching them as from a grandmother perspective, watching them from a mom perspective, and knowing this wasn't the first choice, and it's very. For those of you that are listening that may or may not have children, I forgot to do this disclaimer. You may want to take them out of the room if you don't want to hear grown-up conversation. But it definitely, if you watch this documentary, it is graphic in some areas, although it's done with taste. It is Amsterdam, and they have no shame about it. But I wanted to talk to you, and I wanted you to share with our listeners about what you do and how this falls in line with some of the things and some of the areas that you do with Love for Women and Create Love.
Yeah, well, I think this falls in several areas because, as you know, my sister in spirit, who I know is on the line with us now, listening.
Yes.
Ready to share her heart. Ready to share her heart and spirit because, we're twin souls.
Yes.
But we have Create Love. It's in alignment with several things that we do. One, for me, with Create Love, because Create Love is all about the building of successful relationships. And the name Create Love is very intentional because we believe love is intentional. There's this saying, fall in love, we fall in love. Well, we say stop falling in love. we say be intentional and create and build love with effort and intention. And that love shouldn't be work, relationship shouldn't be work, but it should be effort. It does require effort. It is also in alignment with the work I do with Women Healing Women. And Women Healing Women is a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit I started in 2005. And we do supportive services. We provide supportive services for women survivors of sexual and domestic violence. As a sexual abuse and rape survivor, I started the organization because I needed the organization. When I looked at the landscape of support out there for long-term survivors of sexual violence, I couldn't find anything that wasn't trying to make me a victim. In the way that the way it provided services. I wanted something that showed me, like Maya Angelou says, surviving is necessary, but thriving is elegant. And
oh my God,
I couldn't find anything. Don't you love that, Sandy? Because we talk about ourselves. No, sure. We talk about ourselves as survivors, and I embrace that term. However, surviving is not the end destination. Surviving is the journey, and thriving is where we're trying to support women to be. And one of the things that Sharon and I talk about in our sisterhood as friends, outside of just our business relationship, is that sexual violence is an attack of the mind, body, and spirit. So if healing doesn't involve all three, then we miss out.
Exactly.
And so, my personal vision and purpose in life is to be an empowerment vehicle toward that end.
I love that. I believe we have another caller online. I want to welcome them in if they're wanting to come on the show. Caller, are you there? Let me see.
Hi, it's Sharon. Hello, Jazzie. And
hi, my love.
How are you?
I thought that was you. Oh, my God, I'm so glad you're joining us. I feel like we're always having coffee and tea when you guys come on.
Okay, it's a family reunion.
It is. I just want you to jump right in because I know that you've had an opportunity to hear Sis talk. We started the show out talking about the two sisters, the twins actually, that have been in the prostitution industry in Amsterdam for over 50 years, and how you gotta watch it. You gotta watch this documentary. It's so bubbly. It's so awesome. It is very well done. But you will see the sadness and you will see the trap, I say, that they got caught in, and many women and men, for that matter, do. And how we're in the process of talking about you guys' organization and what you do to help those that may. And I spoke with Imani earlier this week, and I said, it's either you go into it by choice or by force, and we can come out of that through healing and through loving of self and each other.
Absolutely. I really believe that many times we have to be careful because society, as well as different organizations, for example, the church or whatever, we victimize people and then we villainize them. And for example, we do that not only in the sex trade, but we do that in different ways in society and corporate America. We have glass ceilings, we have roadblocks, we don't allow access to different education. We tell women that their worth is based on their looks and their bodies. And then when they feel like they have no other resource, no other recourse, they go into prostitution, and then we victimize them on the front end, and then we villainize them, and then we label them, we shame them, we cast them away. So I think the hypocrisy is not only in prostitution, because there's a lot of ways to prostitute yourself. And many times we prostitute our bodies, but sometimes we prostitute our spirits, because we feel that many times that we have to go along to get along, that we can't be people of integrity. And so so prostitution to me, it's something that we have to address because of hypocrisy, but we have to address something that Imani said, not only the victimization that happens with the body, but the spirit. Not only the spirit of the person, but the spirit of the community, the ethos of a society that says it's okay to limit you, but then when you find ways to take care of you and your family, then we want to victimize you or villainize you. And I think that's something that I'm really glad that Imani's group let people know you don't have to be a victim. And through Imani's work with Women Healing Women, she supports growth, she supports empowerment, and I think that's something that I really admire about her, because somebody has to do the work. And she has to tell the women that they are not victims, and then on our end, I have to, as a minister, I have to tell the church, stop the hypocrisy. Stop creating systems that derail and degrade and demean, and then at the same time try to hold those people accountable and shame them at the same time. So that's how I really feel about with that issue of prostitution. There are many ways that people are prostituting themselves, and if you love yourself and you realize that there are other options, other recourses that you can heal yourself, but also aid in the healing of others, like Imani is doing with Women Healing Women.
Exactly. I know when I was setting up this whole topic, and I love you. I'm going to tell my listening audience, guys, when I say these two women protect their image and their brand, it is so serious, which you should do. And I'm laughing because, the people that know me know I'm very cautious about that as well. But at the same time, my show, Love, Life, Sex, and Flowers, and the reason why all of those topics were important, for various plain and ordinary reasons. But sex was important to me because a lot of times we are so afraid to talk about it that we end up not having healthy sexual relationships. And we end up going from partner to partner to partner, trying to find that key, that whatever is supposed to be there that's not there in a relationship. And the primary thing that I'm finding, one, is communication, with our partner, but communication within ourselves. We're so, as we're saying tonight, we're so shamed into believing that sex is dirty, nasty, and then oftentimes being in forced situations, or whether it was forced with physical abuse or sexual abuse, or forced to believing mentally that we were so worthless that all we could do is this. And so I'm so, again, very, very, very happy to have you both on and to believe in our show and to believe in me enough to come and build your brand and build your love and your support and your information, with our listeners. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that, because it really is important to us, sister, to protect the brand, but also to be very clear about what the overall vision for who we are, but also to understand that every piece of the pie is not ours, and sometimes it's ours to stand back and support something from a distance, and sometimes we have to be in it, and our ego sometimes has us forget that, and we want to be a part of everything, even if it's not for us, so we're very clear not to do that. But I want to dive into some elements of what you're talking about, because, there are really lots of pieces to this issue of this dichotomous relationship with sex we have in our country and in our culture, and the shaming is a really big piece. As a rape survivor, incest survivor, I believe that sexual violence attempts to steal our joy of sex.
Yes.
And I want to really reinforce to women that is a myth, that sexual violence is an experience. It is not our identity, and the worst thing we can do is to continue to allow it to impact us and keep it from our joy.
Say it one more time. Please just repeat that for those that may have just turned on the radio. Please, that is so important.
That sexual violence is an experience. It is not an identity, and it is. And so I'm very meticulous around the language I use when I talk about my own sexual violence experience, because I grew up with a lot of shame about my body, a lot of shame about sexuality, and sexual violence is so prolific in our country. You're talking about several things in this show. You've talked about sexual violence, sex trafficking, and sex work, which are all three very vast issues. Sexual violence, which is the precipitator for a lot of the women who go into the sex industry. We know that sexual violence is pandemic, and I want to just acknowledge this, because this is really profound for me, that every 2 minutes someone in the United States is sexually assaulted. So that means, sisters, that by the time from the time you started to the time we end this dialogue, in 60 minutes, 30 individuals are sexually assaulted at the end of this broadcast. That's profound. And 44% of them are under the age of 18. So we know that this is a prolific issue, and we see a direct correlation between women and men choosing the sex industry as a means to a financial end, and women and men who have been sexually assaulted. So we know there's a link, and I'm not making a judgment about that. I mean, there's a lot of conversation right now, locally and globally, on the legalization and decriminalization of prostitution. The United Nations even put together a 15-member panel that met in 2010. They're just now putting out their final report, talking about supporting the idea of decriminalizing prostitution, and listed all of the reasons. And there are still some international entities that disagree with that. So there's a lot of argument on both sides. But I will say that, it is a precipitator. Sexual violence is a precipitator for people going into sex industry. And we really have to break up this dichotomous relationship we have with shaming women around sex. Even in prostitution, the laws on the books are stronger for pimps and for johns. However, but the enforcement is not the equal. And so it's still in our society, you see there's songs about big pimping and, pimps up, hoes down.
Stand it. I
my God.
Stand it. Drives me
crazy.
insane.
It is insane. But if a woman owns her own sexuality, then she is shamed, and looked down upon. We have this dichotomous relationship where sex sells everything from ice cream to cars, but then we can't really talk about sex as a real experience to a consenting adult. So we have a big task ahead of us. There's a lot of meat on that bone.
I know. It's so, and I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to do this show. Like, everybody thought I was going to come at it from a different angle. I don't have too much of any shame talking about any parts of sex, whether it's all the way left or all the way right, because I just, I too, and we shared this, and I tell so much of my personal business, and people are like, you say too much about yourself, and I'm like, no, I don't say enough, because a lot of times people won't say something, and so they don't get healed, and they don't get help, and they feel shame about everything. So I don't mind sharing my story, because it's helped me come and get over and get through and to become, finally, this wonderful woman that I am. And so, I was raped when I was 17, 18, somewhere in there. And it was by somebody that I knew. So shocking, could not believe that it took place. And then I put myself to shame because I knew society was going to do it. So I didn't even have this whole experience. And I was very blessed to have a wonderful godmother that I went and said, was in the wrong place at the right time for a horrible experience. But at the same time, what it did for me was allow me to now be this voice that I can bring this on the show, and we can talk about it. So everybody thought I was going to come from several different angles, and I'm like, for whatever angle that somebody needs this, it is always my prayer and desire that we're going to cover whatever somebody needs. But it's also, as you say, it's so much meat to this bone. It is so many areas that, we need to tackle and it will never be enough time because it's just, we could just have this show and I could just have y'all on every week.
Right.
We could just have y'all on every week. So, but I'm going to stop now. Look, I'm being cute because, we always got to pay the bills. So hang on, guys. Gotta come right back. Gotta pay the bills. Give me just a moment and we'll be right back.
You're listening to a live show of the Bare Truth Love, Life, Sex, and Flowers at the beautiful Renaissance in the Metro Atlanta area. This actual feed will be alive for on-demand 24/7 after 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on loudmouthradio.com, as well as if you have an iPhone, Android smartphone, tablet, iPad, or even in your vehicle. Go to Stitcher Radio, download us, and download Stitcher app, and make sure you take us and make us one of your favorite shows, which we're now reaching 4 million alone in their cars. And we want to thank all of our listeners for pushing us to our greatest. This show itself is a compelling show. We want to make sure that even if you're just now tuning in, you will be able to listen to the show thereafter our broadcast. We want to thank our listeners for supporting our shows each and every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, as each show is just as important as the next show. Make sure that you also tune in each week, as we'll have updated events, compelling information, things that's important to you and your community. We would love to hear from you. If you have some things you would like to share with us, email us at loudmouthmedia@gmail.com. That's LOUDDMOUTH, media@gmail.com. All of our small business owners are looking for ways to be proactively forthcoming and advertising your business. Connect with us and become a media partner with Loudmouth Radio. This is the time. Contact us at 706-363-3895 and let us help to push you out. Loudmouth Radio Network. We want to make sure that you know that we're here to empower, inspire, and entertain. Now back to Jazzie.
Thank you. I want to go into a slightly different area, not to deviate, but I want to talk about the healing process of women who have now gone to sex industries. They've been abused. They've decided they don't want to be in it. They don't know how to get out, but they finally do. Just all of those areas. What is I'm coming to you. You find out about me. Where do I start if I'm coming to you?
Well, if you're
Go ahead, Marty.
No, go.
I think that something like that is not a one answer fits all. I think that everybody's experience and how it affects their spirit, affects them emotionally, will determine how we would handle and try to be a support to that person. I think the first thing I would do is I would let them tell their story. Because what I find, my sister was raped by a family member. And one of the things that she could never do is tell her entire story. My parents shut her down. They wanted her to not reveal information. And sometimes just being in that moment for a person to tell their entire experience without trying to edit, without trying to not make somebody feel bad. It's a very healing place to start. And that's where I would start right there. Let us tell your story. And also try to give their perspective of what I call where is the healing, the wound the biggest. Because sometimes with interacting with people who have gone through different types of rapes, I don't have any personal experience with it. Sometimes it's their body issues. Sometimes it's their emotional issues. Sometimes it's spiritual issues. Now, all the experience affects everything, but sometimes one area of their life is the most problematic. And I would start there. So I can't say that there's one way that I would handle the situation. It depends on the person. Imani and I are very committed to making any type of therapy based on the individual and not on the experience. And so that's how I would approach the person, to try to understand where's the wound the biggest and try to address it there. Because many times if you can start there and develop some trust, just to know that it was not their fault, you try to increase their self-love, then you can pull them by the hand and usher them into some healing. But I think one of the first things I would do is try to establish some trust, and by letting them tell their story and be an empathetic ear and tell the story how they remember it, not how everybody is trying to force them to remember it. And that was really key with my sister and some other people that I have known who have experienced something so traumatic as rape or incest or anything like that. But Imani, what is your perspective?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think that with any person coming to me with regardless of what the issue is, particularly the women I work with who have experienced sexual violence, is in therapy we say meet them where they are. We meet them where they are. You know, you cannot apply a blanket template of healing to one person. You know, one of the things that the core values on our website at Women Healing Women, we say that women have a right to heal at their pace in their way. You know, sexual violence takes enough from you. The last thing we want to do is re-wound women with what we think is the way they should heal. And so and one of the things that, you know, exactly the thing that Sharon is talking about is listening. We call that witnessing. You know, sometimes women just need their story to be witnessed from beginning to end.
Right.
And so we want to be here to say, you know, even if I have gone through a similar experience, it's not your experience, and you're entitled to share that experience in the way that you feel is right for you, and you can share as little of it or as much of it as you need to. Some women come into my office and they don't even remember all of their experience, so it's not even that much to share. But their bodies, even when our minds don't always remember the story, our bodies, we have what we call body memories. And so that story, that truth is held up in our bodies somewhere. And so we experience all kinds of things physically. And so a lot of the work I do with women who are survivors is body work, you know, and that might include everything from massage to meditation to self-touch to all kinds of healing. But, you know, I don't throw anything on them when they walk in the door. When I walk in the door, I say, you tell me how I can participate in your healing. You know, you tell me what your story is, and then I can offer you my expertise, education, and experience from there.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I love the question, and the reason I ask that is because a lot of times people do the cookie cutter. They put you into this, okay, you know, in the first month we're going to do this, in the second month, and this is how this, and they don't oftentimes give people the opportunity to, one, just be who they are, and then rediscover who you are. You may have lost that with a post-traumatic stressful event. You don't even remember, depending on how young you were or, you know, what part of your life, and you're holding on to that emotional, you know, bondage. And so everybody wants to put you into this. Not everybody. I take that back. Some people do put you into that. So I love the fact that, you know, that's how you approach it. But let me ask you this question, because this is something that so many people have in same gender-loving relationships. I've been asked this question. Do you, either one of you or both can answer, do you feel like the majority of women that are lesbians have been sexually abused in some way or the other? I've been asked that question. Are you finding it more in lesbians than you would, per se, in heterosexual women?
No, I mean, I've been asked that question, and I can tell you I've been doing this work for a very long time. I haven't found any evidence of that being the case. It's an argument I really don't even, a discussion I really don't entertain very much outside of this one we're having now, because I don't understand the point to it, you know.
Yes.
Even if, you know what I'm saying? I mean, even if that was a precipitator for it, and what? I'm not one of those lesbians who has to side on the argument of nature versus nurture. Like if I chose it, it's wrong. If I was born that way, it's okay. No, if it's my life, it's my life. Whether I chose it or I selected it, I think the sexuality runs across a spectrum, and there are all kinds of people on that spectrum. People who feel like they were born that way from a zygote, and then there are some who feel like they selected it. I don't really care. You have a right. You have a human right to exist in whatever that identity is. So that's one. But let me just say this. 1 in 3 women have been sexually violated.
Right.
So
exactly.
Are there a lot of lesbians who've been sexually abused? Yes, there are. Because there are a lot of women who have been sexually abused. And I have yet to be in a room full of women, straight women, heterosexual women, bisexual women, transgender women, who do not say, I do not walk away after I have identified myself, either the work I do or that identify myself as a survivor. Somebody or a couple of somebodies is pulling me outside saying I was abused too and I've never told anybody. I've yet to have the experience in a group of women. So, yes.
I can support what Imani. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I totally support everything Imani says, and it's so interesting that the argument to me is almost insulting because it almost in some way implies that being a lesbian is a result of trauma. That there's some pathology that caused us to be same-gender loving, and that same thought gives society a reason to degrade and stigmatize and a whole bunch of other negative impact that it has on people who are same-gender loving. So just even the question, when you ask the question, kind of sent chills down my spine, because to me, people to even make that argument as if there's a correlation is insulting. And I like what Imani says, that, you know, people choose and people nurture nature. Who cares? You are who you are. And so that's an interesting question that many people continue to use as an argument to some way nullify lesbians, nullify gay people. And so that's just, like Imani said, that's not a conversation or argument that I get any energy, because if it does, if I do give it energy, it's negative energy, and I don't need that.
And we don't want that. Well, you know,
and we don't want that.
We don't want that, and I'm glad you answered it. Some questions I ask, I don't agree with, period, but I like them to be on the show because the show is archivable, so people can continue to hear this answer over and over. So that's the good thing about it. But I do want to talk about
one thing, Jazzie, I'm sorry, I wanted to just, the one last thing I wanted to say about the pathology piece. I'm sorry, but this feels important to me that I really thought that once the American Psychological Association removed homosexuality out of the DSM-4, which happened in the 70s, that we would be done with the pathology question. You know, a group of highly trained psychiatrists, psychologists, and thought leaders sat around and had this debate for us and walked away and removed the homosexuality out of the DSM-4. We're working on transgender identity disorder out of it too, but it was removed out of the DSM-4, meaning that it was not seen as a dysfunction, a pathology.
Right.
So I think we're done with that question.
Well, we can totally be done with that. And if anybody has that question for me ever again, I'm going to go, can you archive my show?
Right.
Archive the show. I wanted to ask you guys, I know this is something that we've talked about before, and I think it goes right along with the healing process. But I wanted to briefly touch on the very real term of lesbian bed death. And before you guys talk about it, I wanted to also ask, do you also find that, once we talk about this, well, let me ask that afterwards. What is your ideas, your approach on lesbian bed death, the term and the realization or the lack of realization of it?
Well, Sharon knows this is one of my favorite topics because, as you know, I've written about it. Stop it. Stop, ladies. Stop doing that and start having sex. That's my blanket. Get you some.
I love it.
You
heard it right here. Okay. You heard it right here on the Bare Truth.
That's my professional 22 years of counseling experience. Get you some. It is a strange phenomenon because lesbian bed death. The term was coined by Pepper Schwartz, who did this study on people who stopped having sex, how women who are in relationships stop having sex. Well, the study was on sex, period, and she found that in the study, and that the longer women together, the longer the periods are between having sex. And I really think there are lots of reasons for it. Sometimes it's just a bad pattern. Sometimes, and being a lesbian, look, I don't know why anybody would choose it anyway, because this is not for the faint of heart, honey. This is, being a lesbian is serious business.
It's serious business.
This serious business. It's very complicated, and sexuality for us is very complicated. When you're as a heterosexual, if you can get A into B, voila. We've done a great job. With women, it's very different. Some women like this, and some women don't like that, and some women like rubbing and touching and fingers and licking, and so there's all kinds of things, and it involves, to keep a healthy sexuality requires communication. And not falling in, as emotional beings, we're designed as very emotional beings, and so sometimes we can get caught up there. But I promise you that sex is a way of softening your eyes towards your partner. And what I mean by that is, if she is, throwing her clothes on the floor and not putting them in the hamper, if you just had some good sex the night before, it probably doesn't seem that bad. That she, what? I would be upset about that, but I said something last night.
But I'm not.
I'm not upset. I'm good.
Well, I also think that people stop having sex, like Imani said, for a couple of reasons too. And I think she hit on something with communication. I think as women, as people, we have so much built-up resentment that it pulls us away from each other. And we think that sex is between the legs. Sometimes sex is between the ears. And if you have a partner that you can't talk to, a partner that's not growing, there's unspoken needs and desires, and you can't have that communication, sometimes your body just shuts down because your mind can't even engage in a way that's loving, that's sexual and sensual. And so I think that sometimes, I call it emotional hoarding. I've heard the term somebody say emotional hoarding. That really affects people's ability to engage on that level because it's a very intimate level. And if I'm mad at you, or if I think I'm being stifled, if I'm not growing, I am not going to engage with you on that level. But also, I think it deals with self-care. For so many times, people don't take care of themselves. And Imani does a good workshop on self-care for dynamic women. If you're not caring for yourself and you're not working out, you're not eating right, you're not being mindful of your emotional and spiritual and intellectual needs, you're not going to have sex anyway. Everything affects our sex life. You know, I think men are different where it's just physical. But with women, like it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's intellectual, it's all these different aspects of us that comes in the bedroom with us. And if we don't take the time as women to stay attractive, to romance each other, if we don't feel as if we can voice what we need emotionally and psychologically and spiritually from our partner, nobody is doing any touching. And if I touch you on the, it's going to be in the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? So I think we got to be very careful that we don't forget that sex is not only between the legs, it's between the ears, and we have to be attentive to that portion of our sex life also.
Wow, we're going to coin that. I'm going to have the producer to put that up so people can come to the show. That it's not just about sex between the legs, it's sex between the ears. I love it.
That's it. That's it.
That might be my new T-shirt.
Yeah. It's a good word.
But you know what? That's very true. And like I said on last week's show, even though Corset Magazine with Ariel Loren covered so much, the main topic of the conversation was about communication between partners, whether you're straight, whether you're transgender, whether you're lesbian, bisexual, queer, whatever you want to coin yourself or label yourself as, communication is the key of great sex. And I found, in just talking about it, I'm not a sex expert. I wish I was, because I always loved the idea of sex. And when I say the idea of it, I mean not only just the pleasure part, but that you could put strange-looking body parts together, and it makes music just trips my mind right out of the powerful creation of, that whole beautiful part that we call body. It's just amazing to me. But I found that you're absolutely right. If I am not being communicative in some fashion, whether it's speech or touch or look or something, that you are picking up that energy, that it's a connection there, it's not going to happen. It is just not going to happen. And what I found just in the conversation, because I've had this conversation, I'm asked many, many times, I'm a very sexual being, and, meeting women and or men back in, that part of my life, but primarily being with women, you meet women initially, and it's just this beautiful chemistry, and, you go a couple of months, you go some years, and then all of a sudden there's none, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, let's have a conversation. What I see is that people don't want to talk. And, I'm seeing that there is not an easy way when somebody shuts down. It's not an easy way or comfortable way to say, hey, I need you to open back up so we can at least have the conversation. And so, I'm ready to come to one of your workshops just because I love to continue to have good understanding not only of myself but how to have a better relationship with my partner. But I just think it's so needed to have workshops where you can actually express, learn, and how to have better relationships sexually.
Well, the exciting thing is that, the Create Love Conference, we're doing our second one in March, and one of our workshops is going to be on raising the erotic consciousness, and it's all about maintaining that sexual, sensual, spiritual, because it's all the same. Connection in your relationship. And the thing is, if you've gone a long time without sex in your relationship, you can't expect to dive back in like, Jenna Jameson. You have to, who is a porn star, but that's okay. Anyway, so you can't expect I don't know. I'm just saying. I heard that she was a porn star, but you can't expect to dive back in with everything. We can try tantric sex, which is that bringing that spirituality into sexuality, and we just deeply touch each other and explore each other's bodies. And women have we often bring so much shame with our bodies. We want to be under the cover and in the dark, and we don't want to see this role, and we don't see it. I mean, if you've been with her for 5 years, honey, she's seen the role, okay? So,
right.
So, you got to let it go, and we have to begin sort of connecting with each other first, and then sort of build our way back into it and not expect that it has to be, a no-holds-barred the first time you reconnect. Because sometimes that alone keeps women from getting reconnected sexually. And we prolong it because we don't want to do all of, A to Z. Well, you don't have to do all of A to Z. Just begin touching and reconnecting. And actually, I do think that the communication and the touching, it does have to go hand in hand, even though if you're disconnected, the further disconnected you are from your partner, the more icy the communication is, the more aloof the communication can be. So they have to happen in tandem, Touch, we know, releases oxytocin, which is important to increasing that pleasure. It's the pleasure, they're calling it the pleasure hormone now. So we know that touch is critical to that. So we have to also talk and touch.
Absolutely. It's something so funny. Imani would just said something. It's almost like to reconnect, we have to get over that performance anxiety. And I think so many couples have performance anxiety. I got to go to 1 to 10, or what if I don't do it right? And it's interesting, the more I talk to women, I think that there is this thought process that everybody knows how to have sex. And that people don't. And every time you have a new partner, you have to learn how to have sex with that person. And I think that we have to, only way to get over that performance anxiety is the trust issue. And like she said, touch and talk to develop that touch, that trust physically and emotionally and spiritually, so you can kind of say, okay, even if I don't do it right, this person loves me and we're going to get it right. But if you're in a space where there's performance anxiety or judgment, or you're trying to be a 10 when you're really a 3, just work yourself up. Then I think that we can get to that place. But it's also about vulnerability also, because we have been taught so many negative things about our bodies. And it takes a lot of growth, a lot of self-awareness, a lot of self-confidence to surrender to the moment. And you have to trust. That's why sexuality and spirituality are so close. Because if you can close your eyes and say amen, you can also close your eyes and come. And there's that close. But it's about surrendering, and we have to get to that point to do that. And I think that if we're teaching people to trust not only their partners, but to trust their bodies, because some people don't want to really enjoy their bodies because they're scared of how they're going to look, scared of how it's going to sound, how their body's going to perform. You know what? If you have to have a couple, a person that you trust and say, look, I don't know how I'm going to show up, but I want to do something different for the second half of my life sexually. And so let's just go for it. But that takes a lot of trust and a lot of vulnerability. And we need a vulnerability in the bedroom as well. But it starts outside of the bedroom. Because, we can have sex and have reckless abandon for a while, but after you have tried every trick in the world, to have sex,
what are you going to do?
To go to that, how do you go to that deeper level of making love? And making love is a deeper level that requires some vulnerability and some trust.
Oh my God. And the thing is that when as we age, our bodies change. And those couples that have been together, Sharon does some wonderful interviews on Create Love, the Happy Couple Highlights, with couples who've been together, for 16, 15, 17 years. You can't do the same trick when you met at 20, you can't do that.
Yes.
So come on now, so you might have been able to put your foot behind your back when you were 20. And now you're lucky to just get your foot up on the bed,
And you know what I'm saying? And look, and I done gained just a little bit of weight. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't feel like getting on top. I'm a little heavy, can't breathe.
Okay, can't breathe. I can't. So you got to work with where you are. You have to work it where you are. And you just have to do it like you have to learn some other tricks. You know how the old people, when they dance, they just do the two-step, but boy, they got a lot of noise that go along with it. They like, what the no? You have to do that sexually. You just have to learn how to work with each other's bodies and understand the changes that are happening with your body. And maybe you could do it for an hour and a half when you were 20, and now it's like, look, but we got 20 minutes. We got 5 minutes. They're going to be some awesome 5 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, awesome. We remember this for a lifetime. Ladies, I love you guys so much for being so real and so honest, because I think if we apply these little, we haven't even come to a workshop, but if we just apply just some of the little things and some of the deeper things that you have shared tonight, I know that couples and individuals will heal and work towards thriving. I always will talk about this couple probably until I take my last breath, and it really, the contrast of knowing what you don't want pushes you to what you want. And this couple, Edie and Thea, which I love, the very long engagement, I watch it like, the news. I was just flipping on because it is one of the best things in life that I was able to ever see. And the one thing that they started out doing was guys loving each other and having sex was dancing. And the two things that they said, even when, death came into or transition came into their relationship, one of the main things that they said as bodies were in pain and distress, we will always find a way to have sex. If we have to have a nurse position us on top of each other, on the side, flipped over, we will have sex. We will dance and we will have sex. And that is something that made me know that although at the time I was in a relationship and it just was not going in the direction that either one of us wanted it to go, it made me know that in order for my life to be as fulfilled as I desire, I have to dance, and I have to be with someone that will love me enough in my age, in my weight, in my changes, in my whatever I'm going to experience in life will want me for a lifetime, and I them. And I'm so blessed, and that's all I'm going to say about that right there. But I just want you guys to know I appreciate you so much. I'm going to play the show over and over and over, and I'm going to share it with my friends. And do you know when your next workshop is going to be so we can offer it to our listeners, or is that something they can just follow you guys on?
Well, absolutely. July 20th, Create Love is having Unveiling the Stud Mystique. It's going to be an amazing panel discussion, a group discussion, grown woman discussion on what it means to be stud, butch, aggressive, masculine identified woman. We have some dynamic women on the panel who bring together brains and beauty. And if you missed Loving Out Loud, which was our last event,
oh my God, I wanted to be there. I had to work.
It was ridiculous, Jazzie. It was ridiculous. So you definitely don't want to miss this. We expect to have a full house as we did with Loving Out Loud. And then for Women Healing Women, we're doing the Self-Care for Dynamic Women workshop on July 27th. So we have a full slate, and you can always log on to our website at www.createloveforwomen.com. I will also want to give a shout-out that we are one of the finalists for the Georgia Voice Best Blog.
I voted.
Yes. So we want to encourage people. First, thank you for your support and encourage folks to continue to vote the month of June. That we plan to take it all the way with your support.
Oh my God, I love it.
Thank you. I also want to say to be on the lookout. I will be doing in addition to Create Love, July 20th in August, I will be doing a workshop called You Can Depend on You, based on my book, I Can Depend on Me. So be on the lookout. I'll have more information on that probably at the end of July, and we're looking forward to that. So keep voting, keep voting, keep voting, and thank you so much for your support. We appreciate that.
You guys are so welcome. I hope, of course, anytime we have a topic that suits you and fits in there, I'm going to call you, and hopefully you can come back and join us. But we definitely will promote all that you do, because what you're doing is really healing the nation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you much. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Well, listeners, we really appreciate you, as we do every Tuesday, for coming in and listening, taking time. I just got a text from Tammy. Tammy, I love you. She said, I missed the show. She just came available. Once again, I love the fact that we are on Stitcher, STITCHER.com. You can download the app and make us a favorite. You can listen to us anywhere, anytime. It's over 400 million listeners on the car dash, so as you're driving, 4 million plus. You can listen to our show on the car dash. But the beautiful thing is we're always able to be archived. So after 10 p.m., you can always go back, usually about 10, 15, 10, 20-ish. You can always go back as long as there's no technical difficulties. In the internet ways, you can find us, log on, find the show, and listen. Don't miss out on this show, guys. It is wonderful. Tell your friends about it. Whenever these guests take away from their time, you always want to come back and hear it, because it's always impactful. So I want to share with you our flower, as we're still here in the Renaissance Waverly Hotel over in Cobb County, and it is just wonderful. We have such beautiful and powerful people here tonight, and we are so blessed to be among them. But I wanted to tell you the flower, because we always try to find a wonderful, beautiful flower, because I love them. And the flower for tonight is called the Narcissus, or I don't know how to pronounce it. I keep saying I'm going to get somebody on the show that pronounces the flower. I was going to call it Narcissus. But nevertheless, I will post a picture. You can find it and you can pronounce it. Anyway, the flower is beautiful. I chose the one that's white and has somewhat of the peaches reddish middle section. But it means to bring self-love, and it increases self-confidence. It also enhances inner beauty and radiance. And I thought, what a befitting flower to put on the show when we're talking about sexual healing, loving yourself, and loving others. I hope you will take a time out and pick a flower out for the week, for the day, for the moment, because truly they are placed in our lives to give us and bring us an abundance of smiles, an abundance of joy, and the fragrances are just amazing. I hope that you will have a fantastic evening and a wonderful week. Peace and love.